Are we headed for a recession? Auto sales explain a lot. Now, this type of information can go one of two ways. You can say that we're having an amazing year, or you can also start to see that we are headed absolutely for a recession. And if you believe that, well, you can probably, if you think we're headed for a recession, either the Fed will not lower interest rates, in which case the way life as we know it is done, or they want to save the current system and they will lower interest rates, in which case, and I hope that's the case, this is why I've invested in the company TMF. I am not a financial advisor, so please don't take this as financial advice in any way whatsoever. This is my gamble. And I'm Johnny from Johnny's Car Care and Reviews. Please hit that like button, the thumbs up, subscribe, share this information with people that need to hear it, that like to hear a lot about the automobile industry and automobiles and cars and trucks, and a little bit of extra thrown in, whether it's financial talk, political talk, social talk. We're here to talk and enjoy the evening as friends, as a caring car community that takes care of each other, that brings forth, we're all part of this show. Everyone in the live, you're in the live chat, you bring information forward, you talk about it in the live. That's all part of the show, and that's fantastic. I try to catch as much of that as possible, and the good stuff that you think I might learn something from, I probably will learn something from. So throw it in the comments section. Please drop comments to these show. I sometimes make episodes based on people's comments, and one way or another, I always learn from them. So let's go to Cox Automotive for the real deal. These guys deal with data. They're not headline chasers, kind of like bad lawyers who are ambulance chasers. Most of media nowadays, they're all about headline chasers. They want those clicks, and they're willing to say, like a dirty lawyer, they don't care whether their client's guilty or not. They don't care about the truth. They care about money. So they just present whatever is going to catch your clicks. They're clickbaiters. So they're clickbaiters and they're masters at it. Let's talk about the real deal right here. There were decent, very, very decent sales in November, and 2023 is going to go down as a pretty good sales year if you compare it to last year or the year before. But guess what? 2022 and 2021 had low inventory, a fact that most media either exploits and doesn't pay attention to the rest, or often just goes, hey, we're having a better month this year than we did last year. Year over year, we are winning, people. The economy's great. Groceries don't cost a fortune. Please comment if you're finding the price of groceries disgusting. I know I am. I've seen them double. I haven't done groceries in like 2 years. I did them during the whole COVID lockdowns because I didn't want Marie getting sick, and I did groceries for my brother, and I did groceries for my parents. So I was the grocery getter, and it's wild. From 2021 to now, they've essentially doubled. It's wild. We are headed for a recession, folks. It's not all bad news. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world here. But, let's talk about the facts. And the automobile industry proves to us that we're heading for a recession. So Cox Automotive forecasts annual vehicle sales pace in November to finish near 15.3 million. At one point, they predicted we were going to hit 15.5 million, but it looks now that it's going to be 15.3 million because we're having a bit of a downturn at the end of the year. We're up 1 million from last November, which was 14.3 million back in 2022, but down slightly from October's 15.5 million level. So in October, we thought for the whole year, we'd do 15.5 million units in the US. That's vehicles, cars, trucks, SUVs, hybrids, electric vehicles, even those not so good looking family vans that I'm allergic to. They thought they'd sell, the economy would be able to unload, manufacturers would unload onto the economy 15.5 million vehicles. And it's going to be 15.3, or very close. So November's sales volume is expected to rise by 6.5% from 1 year ago. So you'll have headlines saying, this is great news, economy's hot, everyone's doing great. Let me know how you're doing. I get comments from, I got one comment, gosh, One comment almost hurt my feelings this week. Someone thought that I must be paid by the Obama-Biden administration and that I must be rolling in all their money, all that laundered money from, sending money all over the place, printing off trillions of dollars, sending it, and then coincidentally that those countries then spend money on weapons from corporations that then spend billions of dollars per year feeding money back into what's called lobbying money, which you could almost see this circle as kind of like a money laundering scheme. You take taxpayers' dollars, you give it to other countries, those countries buy weapons from U.S. corporations, that then those U.S. corporations pump that money right back into the politicians. Sorry, it's not directly into the politicians' pockets. Legally, it has to go into another company and then a lobbying company, and then the lobbying company sends the money to the politicians, which I think that should absolutely be illegal. We got to get rid of money from lobbying. Donations, there should only be individual donations. Corporations should not be able to donate money. Political parties should only be allowed to get money from humans, individuals, real people, with a limit, so that, billionaires don't have more control over politicians than, let's say, 100 million people. One multi-billionaire having more power and influence over a politician than 100 million people doesn't make sense, because those 100 million people, they need representation as well. For high, for low, thank you so much for making it into the show. So November, looks like sales are up. So are we on smooth sailing? Is everything A-okay, hunky-dory and doing great? Well, yes and no. Sales are up, but inventories were very low. A lot of sales coming into dealers now are from orders. I can tell you personally, so far this month, almost all my sales are from orders made months, if not a year and a half ago. And it was the same case for November. And I can tell you as an insider that we could very well have a big decline some point in 24, when the people who've ordered way back when and have been waiting a long time, when they've all been given their vehicles, if interest rates are still high, if prices are still about where they are now, sales will likely go down. So Cox Automotive here, so Outsider Reviews says sales are up. It's relative to inventory. Yes, there's way more inventory. So Cox Automotive says also that probably all this sales increase is due to the inventory increase. It's also due to orders finally. Really, they've been coming in all year, but they've been coming in really strong, these orders, from months ago, since this summer. But here's the thing, folks. 2023 will mark the best sales year since the pandemic. Cox Automotive here, quoting them, but will be down more than 11% from the average volume sold in the years 2015 to 2019. And remember back in 2015 to 2019, I remember that period, there was talk about us going towards a recession, that we were due for a recession, that there would be a slowdown. And instead of a recession, what did we get? We got a pandemic. We got a pandemic. Nothing was planned in that. It was all dealt with very responsibly and intelligently, and we didn't lose unnecessarily any freedoms whatsoever, and we weren't forced any things either. It was a wonderful time, and we're all taken care of, but we're back 11% lower than the time period from 2015 to 2019, when it was deemed that we were moving towards a recession. So, inventories are building up. Cox Automotive is seeing this. I'm seeing this. And the total year-end volumes will be based largely on just how aggressive automakers and dealers are willing to be when it comes to discounts and incentives. Well, I think that's what's going to happen. There's a lot of buildup of inventory, and I think 2024 is a make or break year. If the Fed, if they drop interest rates, and automakers, I think when they read into the numbers, are going to see that sales on paper look good, but they're actually okay. They're okay. They're not amazing. All the headlines you'll see month. We've seen them throughout the entire year. Every month we've seen headlines with the sales are better than the year before. Now, actually, from a lot of YouTube for the last 4 or 5 months, we've been seeing the other extreme. They're saying it's the end. There's a huge, massive crash, and this is like the end of car sales, basically. They're really over-exaggerating the fact. I think it could be if no one did anything, but I highly suspect the Fed's going to drop interest rates. They finally started talking about at least keeping them stable, and actually they're talking about dropping interest rates about 3 times in 2023. So I think what we're going to see is, in 2024, I think what we're probably going to see is 5 to 8 interest rate drops in 2024. And that's going to be based on how bad, the recession we're currently in that no one's willing to admit. How bad are we in a recession? So I think we're actually decently bad off when you see food double, when you see the prices of houses double in the last 10 years, and most of that doubling got done in the last 3 years. I know my house almost went up in my area, almost doubled since I bought it in 2019. No, I'm sorry, it's more than doubled. I got a good price on it. If I hadn't gotten a good price on it, it would have only doubled since 2019. So I'm talking about this not because, I'm in a situation, when I talk about how we need to be vocal and stick together and not fall into that trap of hating one another and getting into these groups and seeing the other groups as the enemy. I think we can all agree that we want freedom, we want safety and health, roofs over our heads for our families, food on the tables for our families, and good food. Not this World Economic Forum idea of get rid of all the farms. And if you're watching the news over in Europe, you've got farmers in several countries over the last 2 years, they've been protesting because they've seen how the laws are trying to wipe them out of existence. The World Economic Forum has talked about how farms essentially need to go out of existence. They want us on the bug powder. So, not a fan. I think we can all get behind that. Sorry for that. You don't buy an EV. We'll talk about more of that at the end of the show. But basically, sales are 11% less than back in 2015 and 2019 when there was talk of a recession coming down. I know someone who manages wealth, and essentially they, back in those years, I think it was 2017, essentially sold all the stocks for the wealth that this person was managing and bought real estate as a safe asset. Fantastic choice when you look back at it, but bought all sorts of commercial real estate, sold all the stocks because this individual saw the recession coming. There was talk of it. It never happened. We got the pandemic instead. So that is where we're headed. I think we're headed towards a recession. I think that this isn't the end. I have faith that, there isn't going to be a recession that turns into essentially a depression with chaos and violence or lack of democracy or civil war. I don't think that's the case, despite the movies that are coming out, despite mainstream media essentially saying that if Trump gets elected, it's going to be a dictatorship, so that in that case, they need to remove him from ballots, which is anti-democratic. We'll talk about that at the end of the episode. I think that's wild, saying to protect democracy, we have to break the principles and the main framework of democracy. We have to break it to protect democracy. That's wild. That's like saying we have to remove all your freedoms to make sure you stay free. That's wild. I think we are in a turbulent time, but I think enough of us are capable of logic, reflection, compassion, and love for one another that we can say, no, you know what, verbally and peacefully, we will just say, this doesn't pass. This doesn't work. So that's the end of that episode. So right here, sorry.